right. Well, let's review what happened this week, starting with Adam and the World of Football Scoreboard.
Yes. We're going to start off with the CFL. It's week 2, and I know we said it last week, but I'm going to say it again this week. It's great to have the CFL back.
Oh, man. It's so good to watch CFL games.
I mean, you can still tell they're still knocking off some rust. Some of the teams, haven't looked great.
Yep.
But, everybody's figuring it out. We're only 2 weeks into this abbreviated season.
Yep.
So, let's just kick things off with Thursday night. We had the British Columbia Lions defeat the Calgary Stampeders 15-9. This is a very defensive game. Only one touchdown during the game for the BC Lions. But Calgary quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell threw 4 interceptions during the game. So that British Columbia Lions defense picking him off.
Yeah.
So this is the first time in his career he's thrown 4 interceptions. It's also the first time in his career, I believe they said, that he has lost 2 straight games to start a season.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal there. I mean, we thought Calgary might be a decent team this year, but so far struggling a little bit. In BC, ever since the second half of last week's game, that defense has been pretty stout. They haven't allowed a touchdown since the first half of that first game. Because they were down 31-9 in that first half, or 32-9 in that first half, and then they ended up only allowing 1 point in the second half against the Rough Riders, and now this week only 9 points all game long to the Stampeders. So that British Columbia Lions defense has stepped up.
Well, you're going to see that as a theme this week. The teams we thought were going to be good are not so good, at least so far. And the teams that were just supposed to be so-so are the ones that are 2-0 right now.
Yeah, like I said, the CFL's always, you never know who's going to be great and who's going to be terrible from season to season. It's weird how it just varies. Sometimes a lot of the names don't change, but that just happens. And then also with British Columbia, they also after the game, a couple days after the game, they released the global kicker Takeru Yamasaki, who we were obviously gushing over that first game last week. First Japanese player to score points. But production's still a thing, and he was only 4 of 8 on his field goals in 2 games. So, I mean, kind of hard to justify keeping a guy. As cool of a story as it was, stories don't win games.
Right. I doubt he'll be picked up by anybody else. But it was a cool story for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah. I mean, we wish him all the best, and hopefully he lands somewhere else.
Sure.
So we'll see what happens to him. Yeah, 4 of 8 field goals in 2 games. Moving on, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers pretty much walked all over the Toronto Argonauts, 20-7. Winnipeg quarterback Zach Collaros was 32 of 40 passing with 292 yards and 2 touchdowns. But also a standout from this game, and I loved watching the highlights of this guy. Argos running back John White had 12 carries. 12.
Yeah, only 12 carries.
Only 12 carries, and he still got 111 yards and the lone touchdown for Toronto. So a little bright spot there for the Argos after their first loss of the season.
Yeah, anytime that a Canadian Football League running back gets 100 yards in a game, that's pretty special because it's almost like the Arena League where they've got just 2 downs, so they,
it's a lot of gunslinging.
3 downs, but 2 downs before they have to punt. Yeah. And it's a lot of passing, of passing. So if you get somebody that is actually a pretty good runner, that's something that's noteworthy. Yeah,
so we'll have to keep an eye on him. And I know the Argos went through a couple quarterbacks, I think, during the game. I can't remember if it was for injury or if they just pulled Bethel Thompson.
I don't recall. I saw the highlights and I don't recall.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully Toronto can turn around. I always go back and forth between Toronto being my team, Hamilton kind of being my team.
And Toronto was supposed to be one of the better teams this year too. And right now,
but hey, you coming up against the defending Grey Cup champs, and Winnipeg has looked pretty good the first couple weeks of the season. All right, and then moving on, the Montreal Alouettes got their first game of the season after being on bye. They defeated the Edmonton Elks 30-13. Montreal running back William Stanbeck rushed 18 times for 112 yards, and then quarterback Vernon Adams was 13-21 for 211 yards, passing with 2 touchdowns. And in Montreal's Mario Albert had an 85-yard punt return for a touchdown, which is the first of the season in the CFL. So the Alouettes come out swinging after a early season bye.
They're running on all cylinders right now early in the season. That punt return was a thing of beauty.
I mean, the Alouettes haven't been a team, to be concerned with for a few years now. It's been a while. But, hey, I love seeing them coming out swinging. I like seeing different teams kind of being at the top there. So we'll see if this momentum kind of holds for Montreal. And for the Elks, 0-2 to start the season with your new name.
Yeah.
A little disheartening there.
The fans are there. The fans are loving it, but they just haven't got a win yet.
Yep. And then the final game of the week, the Saskatchewan Roughriders also decimated the Hamilton Tiger Cats 30-8. How about this? Saskatchewan quarterback Cody Fajardo was 17 of 25 passing for 222 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, as well as a rushing touchdown. And how about 7 rushes for 66 yards in that game, too? So great game for him. And Saskatchewan, we watched a little bit of this live, and there's the rule in the CFL where you have to be a yard off the line of scrimmage as a defensive line.
At the snap of the ball.
And at the goal line, the lone touchdown for the Ticats came at like a goal line situation. They tried running it in 4 or 5 plays in a row, but Saskatchewan kept lining up offsides. You kept seeing there's a definitive line, guys.
Right.
And you got dudes with their hands over the line, guys standing over the line. You know the rules.
Yeah.
Why are you guys getting mad that they keep throwing flags on you? Play the game. Come on. Like, it's obvious. Like, there's the line, and everybody was crossing over. It was frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the ball was on the 1 yard line, so they had to be behind
the goal line.
The goal line, and you could see several hands that were into the
4
field.
4 or 5 plays in a row. Maybe one time, like, okay, I get it. But then 2 times, you're like, really, guys? 3 times, you're like, what is going on? Who is coaching these losers? And then the 4th time it happens, you just, like, throw your hands in the air and, like, just let them score. Yeah. Get it over with. Gosh, apparently they don't want to, not have a penalty, so...
Yeah. Well, Cody Fajardo, some of his runs were designed runs, but at least one that I saw on the highlights was a broken play that he just, picked it up and ran and did well. So, he had a great night running, an even better night passing, and come out with a win.
He's had a couple good, strong games.
Yes, he has.
And then on bye this week, the Ottawa Red Blacks, who were 1-0 last week. So we look forward to seeing them. I think next week they play. I forget who they play next week. I had it written down somewhere, but I misplaced it. I'm sure they'll be if I'm doing this in post.
Well, we'll talk about it next week.
But the standings, real quick. Yes, we're 2 weeks in, but we're going to quickly go over the standings in the CFL. In the West, you had Saskatchewan and Winnipeg both at 2-0, British Columbia at 1-1, and then Calgary and Edmonton rounding out the West with an 0-2 record apiece. Jumping over to the East, Montreal jumps up into the 1-0 column with Ottawa, Toronto at 1-1, and then Hamilton there at the bottom at 0-2. We transition now to the Indoor Football League. It's Week 17, 1 week to go after this. Friday night, the Arizona Rattlers defeated the Spokane Shock 30-20. Then we had Iowa defeat Sioux Falls 55-49 in overtime. The Barnstormers defeat the Storm. This is a big comeback win for them, and apparently it helps them clinch a playoff spot. The only thing about the IFL website I don't like is they don't really tell you who's in the playoffs yet or not. Last I checked, so.
Well, they might have had an article a few days later, kind of.
But I like looking at the standings and seeing the little X or Y, like who's in the playoff.
Right.
They didn't do that.
Yeah, they could do a better job.
Yeah. Lots of room of improvement for the IFL.
It would make our job a lot easier.
Yes, it would. And that's what this is all about. Make our job easier. Then the game of the week was the Frisco Fighters and the Green Bay Blizzard. And this game was close at halftime. I believe it was 14-7 in favor of the Fighters. And the second half, totally different, situation where the Fighters just came out and just decimated Green Bay. They win the game 38-20. So, I mean, Frisco is one of the top 3 teams in the league.
Right.
Obviously, they should have a playoff spot. And, of course, we're rooting for Clint Dolezal.
Sure, coach of the Fighters.
Then the Tucson Sugar Skulls shocked the Duke City Gladiators 63-59 in a shootout, which was also a comeback victory for the Sugar Skulls. Good to see them getting back in the win column. Then Sunday, we're
same old.
We were feeling really bad for the Northern Arizona Wranglers, who fell to the Massachusetts Pirates 51-16. Wow. And then on bye this week in the IFL, the Bismarck Bucks. So quickly running down the order of top to bottom. The number 1 seed right now, Arizona, I did this last week. The Arizona Rattlers at number 1. Number 2, the Frisco Fighters, followed by the Massachusetts Pirates. Iowa jumps up to the number 4 spot. Bismarck holds steady at the number 5. Spokane falls to 6, and then Duke City falls to 7. Sioux Falls stands pat at 8. Green Bay at 9. Tucson at 10, and then Northern Arizona Wranglers at 11.
Yeah.
So,
rounding out the bottom.
1-12, I believe they are now,
yeah.
And poor Northern Arizona. I do feel for them.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's their first season, so they're learning. The coaches, players, everything. It's all brand new to them. So, better luck next year.
Yeah, we'll see. Now we move on to the National Arena League, where they had their championship game in Albany, New York, between the Empire of Albany and the Lions of Columbus, which saw the Empire. This was a shootout of a game too.
Yeah,
saw a little bit of this.
We did.
Albany defeats the Lions 79-62. Yeah, the last couple of minutes of that game just dragged on. It already looked like Albany had it all locked up, and that last couple of minutes just dragged on with penalties and just a bunch of other stuff going on.
But it's just what you want from an indoor league game. Very high scoring, championship game. Both of these teams deserve to be there.
Yeah, Albany would have cracked 80 points had their kicker not missed that extra point on that last touchdown there. But Albany quarterback Tommy Grady, wide receiver Malachi Jones for Albany, former Arena League.
Yeah, they were there in 2019 when the Albany Empire won the Arena Football League championship in its last season.
So how about that?
They're still there with the team.
You win the 2019 Arena Bowl championship, the last one. Then you're off for a year. Then you come back into a whole different league. You bring back a lot of your guys from the Arena League, who are studs, by the way, and you win a title in this National Arena League. So if you're an Albany fan, two of the last 3 years have been pretty fun over there.
Yeah, it looked like it was a pretty good crowd, too.
Yeah,
it wasn't a sellout, I don't think, but it was good. A good crowd. They were into the game. They loved that team, and, the uniforms and the helmets are the exact same thing for Albany that they were in the Arena League, so it was almost like we were watching an Arena Football League game. Like it. Yeah, I was looking at that game like, oh, man, I miss Arena Football.
It was weird watching the kickoff, and you didn't see the big rebound.
Right,
that threw me off, but... Also, let's go to the Columbus side real quick. All 3 Columbus losses this season were to Albany.
Yeah, they finished 7-3.
And this isn't the first time Columbus has made it to the championship of the NAL.
Right, they're a good team.
They're a good team, but they haven't won a title yet in the NAL. I believe they've gone to 1 or 2 of these games and lost in the championship. So, another tough pill to swallow. But I mean, we'll see if the Lions can bounce back next season.
Yep, Columbus was definitely the second best team in the league this year. We thought maybe they might put it together for the championship game, but being at home in Albany with that crowd and everything, it was just a little bit too much.
Yeah, and I guess right before we round up the scoreboard this week, you did want to mention that Saturday night. What a night if you're a football fan, because you had
it was a big night at our house.
You had several football options because you had the National Arena League title game.
Yes.
You had some IFL games on YouTube and on Stadium Stadium Network.
Yep, I was actually able to get that to stream on our satellite dish, and it looked pretty good. So I got to see Clint Dolzell on the sidelines on the Frisco game.
Yep, you could find CFL games on ESPN Plus, or I believe ESPN2 had the game the other night.
Don't recall exactly.
One of the ESPN stations had the game live on their main network, and then the NFL preseason games galore. There were games all over the place. Right. NFL Network. I'm sure if you're listening across the country, there was a game somewhere locally for you to find.
Well, we saw all 4 of those leagues Saturday night. We watched some of the NAL game, the championship game. We watched some of the IFL game.
I watched a couple IFL games. I was flipping around on YouTube.
We caught a CFL game before I fell asleep, at halftime. And then, some preseason games. We were watching the Los Angeles Rams to see if Stafford was going to play. He didn't. He didn't play. But we touched on each one of those Saturday night. So
just to have those 4 options,
different leagues. Yeah,
just to have those options is great.
Yep.
So, all right, and that's it for this week's World of Football Scoreboard.